Well, how's it going? Same thing happened again as last time. I was just having fun. I had questions and I was having fun. Then I raised my hand and you called me, so. But I wrote questions before this time. Last time I didn't.
Does it still apply to where you are now?
Probably not, but.
Well, we've really enjoyed this interaction.
All right, this doesn't at all. But what about and this might be really, really stupid, but a percentage of knowing, this is dumb, but of knowing how far away you are from something that you don't want happening to you. Does that make sense?
Well, your degree of dissatisfaction is an indicator. Before you can know these things, before you can tell how close you are to a manifestation, wanted or unwanted, you have to understand what the emotional guidance signs are. So you have to get in touch with how you feel before you will have any way of knowing. And that's why we're encouraging meditating and therefore practicing the receiving mode, and even further practicing acknowledging when you feel satisfied and when you don't, because then you can gauge what your degree of dissatisfaction is, the degree of it and how often it is, or your degree of satisfaction and how often it is. You can pretty much tell from moods. As you know other people, don't you often, as it regards other people, see things happening in their life, and aren't you able, if you know them well, aren't you able to acknowledge, well, that's about right? Or don't you hear yourself saying things like, well, that was easy to see coming?
Yeah.
It's like that.
Well, okay, so let's say I have kind of a fear of flying, all right? So let's say I'm feeling really good and I get on a plane. It's probably not going to crash, right? Is that what you're saying? If I get on a plane, I'm like, man, flight's awesome. There's no fear of flying anymore.
There was a time when we talked about it in those terms, because that's where most of you were as you were asking, and we would say things like focus on the positive aspects of the plane and so forth. And most important, this is the guidance that we were giving for a long time, but we've amended it just slightly, and we'll tell you the difference. Our guidance is, if you feel strong negative emotion about something, don't move forward. That's just really good advice. Because if you have strong negative emotion, that means you're not in a good vibrational place. It means you're certainly not in the receiving mode of what you do want. It means you're more likely in the receiving mode of what you don't want. So if it's really strong, then don't move in the direction of it. These days, while we still are saying that, we're offering you a little more subtle guidance by asking you to train yourself to understand what your guidance is telling you. All the time. It happens really often. You'll be, for example, driving in traffic, and there is potential for many different things, wanted and unwanted, to happen around you. And if you're not fixated on it and worried about it, and you're in a good mood, being in a good mood meaning being in the receiving mode, being in the receiving mode meaning being able to receive some impulses from your inner being, you'll feel impulses to do things that will keep you in the path of least resistance. Some years ago, specifically to that topic, Jerry and Esther were in San Francisco, and they were leaving the city, and they were staying south of the city, out sort of near the airport. And Esther was driving. Jerry usually navigated. It may have been before they were familiar with the navigational systems. But as Esther got onto the freeway 101, instead of going south, she went north accidentally. And when Jerry realized it, he said, well, I guess we can just settle in here, because this is going to be a long ride across that long bridge. In other words, they were going in the wrong direction, and there was not anything they could do about it. And Esther was apologetic. She felt bad that she'd made this mistake. They were already tired. It was late at night, and this was going to cost them at least an extra hour by Jerry's approximation. And when they got back to where they were, there was like a 99 car pileup that, timing-wise, they may have very well been right in the middle of. So Esther's mistake kept them from being in the middle of all of that. And so when you're tuned in, tapped in, turned on, and you're not so ready to call what looked like a mistake, but instead you're in a satisfied attitude, saying things are always working out for me, and so now we'll get to see some things that we maybe weren't going to see before, and you make the best of things, maybe the worst of things. What happens is, as thoughts are becoming things, there was a vortex that was brewing, and that was already in the works even before it had happened. Even before it had happened. And everyone in the vicinity had a vibrational, approximate vicinity, had a relationship with that. You see what we're getting at?
Yeah. So I just had another amazing realization. So there's a part of me that feels like I shouldn't be up here because I'm like taking people's time away.
Is it because you know all the answers and you're just showing off? Or do you have a genuine desire to take thought beyond that which has been before?
I do. So...
Well, then how could you be wasting their time?
Exactly. I'm not. So basically...
Well, you see, that's one of those flawed beliefs that a lot of people have, that I'm not worthy, and so I shouldn't take any advantage for myself. I should leave all the advantage to everyone else. But that sounds like there's a limitation that you believe in, the limitation of resources. So if you're gobbling them up, then somebody else doesn't have anything to gobble up. And that certainly is a flawed premise, because everyone is getting everything that they're asking for and ready and willing to receive. And you are not the keeper of their gate. What you get cannot deprive someone else. You are not the creator of their reality.
You're right. So when I was 15, I went deaf in my left ear. So it's kind of amazing, because I feel like I have this part of me that's like infinitely positive over here, and then this part of me that's kind of hopeless and negative over here. But it's this great gauge of like knowing that I need to wake this part of me up and be like, let's go. Does that make sense? And that's kind of like what you have to do with all the energy that doesn't feel like the divine energy, right?
Could serve you very well. Every subject is two subjects, and there's the end of the stick that feels good and the end of the stick that doesn't. There's the satisfying end and the not satisfying end. Every subject is wanted and absence of what is wanted. And so you get to decide which way you lean. We wouldn't take that analogy too far. We would acknowledge that you can hear what you need to hear. We haven't found you having any difficulty in hearing us. And also, there is a wonderful thing when it becomes less necessary to you to rely on physical senses, because you've tapped into that broader sense of being tuned into your broader perspective, who is offering you vibration that you can translate in the form of thought, rather than a vibration that your ear is translating in the form of sound.
So I have one last question. It's a great one.
You follow that?
Yeah, that was great. That was awesome. I totally get that. Because, I mean, your senses change by how connected you are to source. For me, at least. Yeah.
Well, when you're really in tune with who you are, then your inner being, who is always flowing to you and through you, is often using your physical senses for observation. And so if you're tuned into your inner being, who is using your physical senses for observation, and you're getting the translation of what they're observing through your physical senses, through your mind, then you could certainly bypass anything that you feel is defective in your own body.
That's awesome. I'm going to buy the...
Did you get that?
Yeah, I did. I'm definitely going to buy the recording on that and listen to it a bunch.
We try to be as vague as possible so you'll all buy all of them.
So last time I was here, I was talking to you about like paranoia. And this is really funny because one day I was in paranoia. I was like, oh, Google what Abraham-Hicks says. And then it was me asking you about it. So
that right there, that's law of attraction on steroids right there.
So since then, so this is just like an example. So I wrote this poem. It's a kind of a slam poem, and it kind of went viral. It was kind of discussing like maybe like the oppressive white people of the world. And I'll get these like negative threats online, and I guess like if I go into them, that's when they affect me, because that's kind of what I was talking about last time, and things, you know.
We can talk about that in more specifics if you want to, but let's talk about it in general terms just for a moment here. There's satisfaction, and then there are things that feel less satisfying, and paranoia would certainly be one of those. Yeah. So if we call it satisfaction and paranoia, because do you have a counter word to paranoia? The counter word, it could be like trust or stability or well-being or knowing. There could be a lot of words like that if you don't feel trusting. In other words, paranoia is a really heavy word because it's been practiced for a while and there's a lot of momentum going. By the time you are at a place that you are in steady or frequent paranoia, you've practiced it for a while. So for us to ask you to even contemplate what's on the other end of that stick, it might be easy for you to find a word that sounds good, but it would not be that easy for you to find the vibration that feels like that, because the paranoia just won't let you find it and feel it. You see what we're getting at?
Yeah.
But when we put a softer goal feeling in there, like I have the goal of wanting to feel more satisfied, not trying to get rid of all paranoia, not trying to replace that with whatever the replacement would be. I just want to feel more satisfied. You'll find yourself more and more often feeling more and more good and better until paranoia has been activated less and less, and the reasons for it are activated less and less, and then it will sort of peter out in your experience. What paranoia actually is a belief not in your own ability to manage your own life. It's a belief in outside factors affecting you. It's the opposite of an understanding or a belief in law of attraction. It's a belief in outside factors affecting you, or it could be a belief in your inability to manage your own experience. And it's usually some of both with most people.
But also, like, maybe it comes from, like, not trusting others. Like,
Yeah.
kind of thinking others are going to... Yeah.
Not trusting others, and also
Not trusting law of attraction.
But also, you see, there's a lot of others that you can't trust. There's a whole lot of others that you shouldn't trust. In other words, there's a lot of stuff that you just don't want to get mixed up with that's out there. But you also don't want to go hide in a hole. You also don't want to go hide in a cave. And so isn't there another alternative? What about getting tuned into your inner being, who knows where everyone is and knows where you are in relationship to all of that, who just guides you so that you just zig and zag and live happily ever after as you move through life. And so you begin developing the posture that things always work out for me. Things are always working out for me because I'm guided. And so maybe paranoia is on one of the stick and being guided is on the other, but that requires understanding how blessed and guided you really are. And as we visit with all of you, we've been offering all kinds of wonderful words to you, you to us and us to you. This has been a remarkably wonderful leading edge conversation that we've been having all morning here. But words don't teach. It's only life experience that teaches. And so this is the way we like to teach. We like to get your attention about who you are and how you fit into all of this. And we like to explain to you the laws of the universe as well as you can understand them from where you stand. And then we like to convince you about the receiving mode. And then we like to give you some easy ways of getting there. And then we really like it when you find yourself feeling satisfied and acknowledging, hey, I must be in the receiving mode. I'm feeling pretty good. Came out of meditation feeling pretty good. And then we really, really, really like it when right after meditation, when you're in the receiving mode, because you felt that sort of detached feeling, an idea occurs to you, an impulse occurs to you that you follow and see the big, wonderful manifestational payoff of you having a feeling or a sensation or a hunch and you following it, and then you see. Because then you will prove to yourself that you can get in the receptive mode and what that yields. And it takes a pretty good measure of that to replace attitudes of paranoia. On the other end of that stick that is paranoia, we'll call it invincible. I know that well-being abounds. And most people would say to you, you have to be crazy to feel invincible in a world where airplanes can crash and people can follow you online and get you. It takes a crazy person to feel invincible. And we say, it takes a connected person to feel invincible. It takes a person who not only has good guidance, but knows when the good guidance is available to them, who knows when they're in the receiving mode of good guidance. It takes practice to even know what receiving mode you're in. Esther, as long as she has been allowing us to flow through her, and really as good as she is at it, the best that we've ever known, as she allows us to flow through her, and as different thoughts flow through her, on a really regular basis, Esther will ask herself, as a thought is occurring to her, not under these conditions because we're just full-blowing and there's no time for her to have those considerations, but when she's moving through her normal days, on a really regular basis, as a thought occurs to her these days, she's asking herself, is that thought satisfying? Which receiving mode am I in? Am I in the receiving mode of CNN? Am I under the influence of that? What am I under the influence? What am I receiving?